You can see here how many charges you have of both your sub-weapon and your vials, with sub-weapons being restored by finding these blue bottles, and vials by finding these much more rare pickups. On the right, you'll see your current amount of bones, which is the game's currency, how many keys, called gears, you have, and how many bones are required to level up. You probably figured out that these glowing spots on the ground are checkpoints that serve as a respawn when you die. But what you might not know until you die without a spark is that they also mark the spot of your underlab, which is kind of like Mina's home base that you can upgrade and customize as the game progresses. More than that though, when you drop into an underlab, the water here will heal you completely, the device on the bottom right will restore all of your vials, and the machine in the top right will allow you to convert bone stones to bones, which we'll talk about next. There are two types of currencies in Mina the Hollower. Bones, the main currency that you gain from defeating enemies and can find most commonly in the world, and bone stones, which are yellow gems that are most commonly found in treasure chests. Basically, you can think of bones as cash that you have in your wallet, and bone stones as money in a savings account. When you die, you will drop a spark near the spot where you fell, but you'll still maintain all the bones that you had as long as you don't die again without a spark. You can reclaim your spark by touching it or by killing the nearby enemy that absorbed it when you died. Bone stones, on the other hand, are safe from death, and can be pulled from whenever you're purchasing items at a vendor. You can actually tell whether or not you can afford an item with just your bones and your bone stones together, or whether you can't afford them at all just by looking at the color of the price of an item in the shop. The one thing that bone stones cannot be used for normally is level ups. However, if you visit your underlab, the machine in the top right corner will allow you to convert bone stones into bones, allowing you to get just the right amount to be able to level up. When you get enough bones to level up, you can choose to increase either your attack, defense, or the power of your sidearms. The cost of each upgrade will increase with every point you place into the individual category. And if you decide that you want to save up and add a point to a category you can't afford at the moment, you can choose to convert your bones into bone stones and not have to worry about losing them when you die. Be careful when you've got a lot of bones. They're very valuable, and this game can very often get unexpectedly difficult very quickly. So if you're sitting on a lot of bones and you feel like you'd regret it if you lost them, consider stopping what you're currently doing, head back to town, and start spending them. Sidearms are temporary weapons that Mina can use with the press of a button that generally give Mina a unique way to deal with enemies and obstacles, or provide some other form of utility. I'm not going to go over every single sidearm because there are a lot of them, but I do want to cover just a couple of nuances about them. For one, they require a resource called jewels. Jewels can be collected by finding these blue bottles all over the place. For two, while you can generally find sidearms by breaking blocks and candles, their locations are actually static. So as an example, you can always expect to find an umbrella at this spot in the graveyard. This is important to know because sidearms are actually used to cross gaps, solve puzzles, and reach secret areas that you normally wouldn't be able to with your standard gear. So even if you die and lose your sidearm, if you remember where you found it, you should be able to pick it right back up on the run back. Additionally, once you unlock the Hollowers Guild and rescue Reen, you'll be able to purchase an upgrade for the underlab that holds on to the most recent sidearm you were holding onto when you died, so you don't have to lose it upon death. When you first begin Mina the Hollower, you're given a choice between three weapons: Nightstar, a mace attached to a chain with good range; the Blast Strike Maul, a powerful hammer that's slow but can be charged up for big AoE damage; and Whisper and Vesper, two daggers that allow for rapid strikes. You're locked into this choice once you finish the prologue, but if you're deep into the game and feeling regret, you can purchase any of the other two and more by going to Legovich's Arms in the starting town of Osix. Weapons start expensive at 2,000 bones each and get more so with each new one you buy, but they can still be worth the cost since certain weapons are better than others in specific combat encounters. You could also purchase the same weapon again, which will upgrade it by granting it a new move. For example, upgrading the Blast Strike Maul will allow you to charge it another level and execute a highly damaging explosive attack. There's nuance to each of these weapons as well. Jumping forward while attacking with the Nightstar will let you extend its range significantly. Charging with the Blast Strike Maul and moving in a direction will allow you to roll with some invulnerability frames to get out of the way of an attack to deliver one of your own. And when you jump and attack with the daggers, you're locked in a direction after the first attack, allowing you to attack the same target twice while still holding left or right to move while in the air. One very important mechanic that never goes explained is the fact that you can actually burrow immediately after taking damage. Normally, in order to burrow, you have to jump first, which makes avoiding certain attacks tricky because you need to be preemptive. But if you've already taken the hit and you just need to get out of there quickly, you can hold the jump button while you're still flashing from the hit and immediately go underground to retreat. Speaking of jumping, make sure that you have a handle on how far Mina can actually jump. If she's just walking and pressing the jump button, she can comfortably jump over a 1 square gap. 2 square gaps can be cleared with a burrow jump, but anything beyond that, and you'll need either a trinket or a sub-weapon to help you out. You should also keep this in mind as a way to skip certain hazards and obstacles. Instead of making the obvious 1 square jump, try burrowing and make the less obvious, slightly more difficult 2 square jump to save time and potentially avoid a fight with an enemy. Mina doesn't have to rely purely on the strength of her weapons. She can interact with the environment in interesting ways as well to help get an advantage over foes. By burrowing and coming out under things like rocks and vases, she can carry them and even throw them at enemies to deal big damage. Not only that, but the very act of burrowing essentially allows her to break line of sight against most foes. So if you're dealing with enemies that have a shield that guard their front, try getting their attention, burrowing as soon as they start moving towards you, and go right under them to pop up at their backside, giving you free attacks where they're vulnerable. The town of Ossex is enormous, and can be a bit overwhelming when you first complete the prologue and you're left without a clear guide of where to go. So let's cover some of the most important points of interest that you'll be coming back to often. From the main town gate, the building just to the right is the Hollowers Guild. You can reach it by following the house around to the right side, breaking this crate, and then hopping over the obstacles until you reach the front door. There's not much here when you first begin, but as you continue through the game and complete certain side quests, you'll unlock new NPCs that will appear here and will grant you some upgrades for the Underlab. Straight ahead from the main gate is basically the shopping district. The first store to your right is the Emporium, which has a variety of permanent upgrades from health expansions, vial capacity upgrades, jewel expansions to allow you to use more sidearms, and trinket bags to equip more trinkets. To the right of that is the Cure Institute, where you can buy keys, great for when you're out of keys, and spot a locked door that you want to check out. And all the way to the left is the aforementioned Legovitch's Arms, where you can purchase new weapons or upgrade the ones that you already have. Scattered all around the town are newspaper stands where you can read the latest issue of the Tenebrous Times to check on some game stats, as well as get an idea of where you should go next by looking at the front page story. You'll see a handful of these buildings that have black circles above their doors. These are spark doors, and you'll need to give up the number of sparks shown on the door in order to open them. Starting off, you'll only have 1 spark, but as the game progresses, you'll be able to get more, which will not only help you open these buildings, but also basically give you multiple chances to recover your bones, since you only lose them all if you die without a spark. Apart from that, make sure you're talking with every NPC, except maybe this one if you don't like getting randomly jump scared all the time, burrowing through suspicious looking holes, breaking everything that's breakable, and striking anything that looks unusual. If you're finding that Mina the Hollower is too hard, too easy, or if you just want to play with some of the visual elements, there are an insane number of in-game modifiers to customize the game to how you want to play it. Sick of the run back from the nearest checkpoint to the boss? Turn on the boss checkpoints modifier to put an underlab right next to the boss room. Frustrated by how long it takes to heal? There's a mod for that. Just turn on quick heal. On the other side of that, you can make the game harder by reducing the invulnerability time after getting hit, increasing the amount of damage taken. Heck, you can even make it so that in addition to losing all of your bones when you die, you also lose a level in each of your stats. Finally, if there's ever any element of the game that you don't understand, or that this video wasn't clear enough in describing, there's an excellent in-game manual that you can reach from the options menu that covers just about everything I talk about in this video and more. Just like the old days of instruction manuals. Oh yeah, one more thing. Don't stay in the dark. Get out of the dark as quick as you can, because you don't want to stay in the dark. Just trust me on that. And those are 12 things that Mina the Hollower doesn't tell you. Thanks for watching, and for more Mina the Hollower, make sure to check out our ever-growing wiki. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
With Forza Horizon 6 imminently coming up on the, horizon, now is a good time for newcomers and returning players to get up to speed with the Forza Horizon story thus far.
Oh yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why is Guillermo del Toro putting on that voice?
But also, what story? It's Forza Horizon. The only story is the one where you keep getting your ass beaten by someone's drivatar and keep getting angry at them as if they're responsible. You probably only put Horizon on for 20 minutes a year just to check it's still there. But what if I told you that the Forza Horizon series does have a strong narrative through line, that it is, in fact, an epic of biblical ambition?
Welcome to Horizon.
First of all, it's a persistent universe full of recurring characters and callbacks, but more importantly, the story of Forza Horizon is about a bitter clash between two competing visions for civilization. A battle not just for a place on the podium, but for the very soul of humankind. Rendered in chrome and destructible fence posts, it stretches out before us, and we know for a fact it will continue in and has massive implications for Forza Horizon 6. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back to where it all starts, in Colorado. It's the halcyon summer of 2012. America's breadbasket shudders to the piston-knocking thump of EDM as the devoted gather in tents, sweating and writhing to the sermons of disc-spinning beat shamans. But they're not here to hail the DJ. This is the Horizon Festival, and these are no ordinary revelers. Their drug of choice is the sensory rush of proper speed, and the real danger that it could all go horribly wrong in a split second. This is America. This is the cult of the motor car. Colorado 2012 is not the first Horizon Festival. The reigning champion Darius Flint has dominated the competition in 3 previous years. What's significant about 2012 is the clarion call made to all the region's petrol heads. Come forward and race your dinky little runabouts against some proper legends. A call answered by the owner of such, a gorgeous 1995 Volkswagen Corrado VR6 with a slightly wonky timing belt,
Timing's off.
but crucially a driver with a lot of gumption and a wardrobe full of plain copyright safe t-shirts. The original Forza Horizon game is the quintessential American hero's journey. A young man with a head full of dreams and a tank full of mid-grade, taking on a succession of bigger fish in better cars. But the trials of one driver battling up the ranks of a racing competition are a mere civil skirmish in the grand scheme of car culture. Untested faith is the spiritual equivalent of a service station sandwich. The cult of the motor car isn't just here for the gladiatorial dance of Stigs and hot shoes, battles in which a car always wins, like how the World Cup is always won by a football team. Ever notice that? No, the car is here to take scalps. Aeroplanes, helicopters, even hot air balloons. Anything that dares look down on tarmac is fair game for having its face rubbed in it. The first of these showcase events, the first ever, would be a legendary tussle between Mustangs. A 1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429 taking on a P-51 Mustang fighter plane, each a vision of America's core identity. The very symbol of US air superiority in World War II pitted against an iconic muscle car, an expression of raw V6 power that has the fuel efficiency of a steamboat and corners like one, representing America's determination to always stay the course no matter the cost, if only because your rear axle might as well be a tree. To paraphrase Margaret Thatcher, turning is for soyjacks and Europeans. That first battle of pistons between the car and its bewinged cousin proved unequivocally that the Horizon Festival wasn't just another stuffy, tedious exhibition of spinning wheels like Formula 1 or cheese rolling, but something of grander spiritual purpose. Cynics may point out that it's functionally little more than a time trial set against a particularly overblown screensaver, but cynicism is not the American way. The motor car would flex its cranky muscles against skybound opponents on several more occasions during Colorado 2012. More planes, helicopters, and the aforementioned race against a hot air balloon, a vehicle which you can't steer and whose only speeds are gentle ascent and slow plummet. I mean, you might as well race a jar of Swarfiga. The endless stretch of pristine tarmac that is America is the car's natural stomping ground, a lion in its very own Serengeti.
In landlocked Colorado, the reign of the car is undisputed. In order to keep spreading its gospel, the Horizon Festival would have to look beyond the spiritual home of the automobile to somewhere where the municipal transport links are so good, a lot of people don't even bother learning to drive at all, the weirdos.
Forza Horizon 2. Miles and miles of coastal highway set across two of the most car-loving nations outside of the USA. France, home of the pokey little hatchback, and Italy, motherland of the mid-engined sports car. The twin poles of the motoring experience, glistening in the gorgeous orange sun that once shone on the Roman Empire, a rich cultural backdrop for flinging a Ford Capri's arse around a gelato spot. Horizon 2014 would eschew the idea of a centrally located car show operating in parallel with regular life, preferring to balloon into this impossibly vast, virtually endless, infinitely budgeted festival with multiple locations incorporating elements of that most civilized, politely European form of motorsport, the Grand Tour, or if you prefer, the road trip.
In 100 yards, turn left.
And the showcase events returned in style, kicking off with an opportunity for military planes to save face as the Italian Air Force's Frecce Tricolore display team face off against a 2003 Ferrari Challenge Stradale. Mirroring the Mustang versus Mustang race from 2012, these are twin symbols of Italian pride. I mean, aside from the pinch emoji and match-fixing scandals. Flamboyant aeronautics versus spectacular engineering. The car wins, obviously, as it does against several dozen hot air balloons in a bizarre rematch that nobody asked for. It's clear, of course, that the car and the plane are not natural rivals. They have a shared heritage in the likes of Rolls-Royce, Mitsubishi and Saab, among others, but they need not share their respective domains. The car's greatest adversary is not skybound, but another creature cursed to crawl the earth. Not the motorcycle, which is just a car for people who think they're too good for lanes, nor is it the pedestrian or an Aggie cyclist with a helmet cam and a TikTok channel. It is something that is antithetical to everything the car represents. Self-reliance, taking to the open road with your trusty steed, the ability to simply get out the motor and have a cheeky KFC.
The serpent that slithers on fixed tracks despises these virtues. It is everything the car exists to overcome. The most bitter feud in transport is between this and that.
Trains are subsidised mass transport with inadequate luggage space and elbow room. The train is a prison of the mind and body. In short, cars equal freedom, sexy time, eagles. Trains equal socialism and having to stop for other people. But for all their rigidity and inflexibility, trains are shockingly fast. Untroubled by the concept of split-second manoeuvrability, the train is a Victorian moon rocket laid on its side, pointed in a binary direction, and ignited with Lucifer's flatulence. Where the car's power is measured in horses, a train's power can be measured in cars. So it comes as no surprise that the very first showcase featuring a train, in this case a race between a sleek, steam-powered passenger locomotive and a gorgeous 1968 Lancia, is a neck-and-neck battle that comes down to fractions of a second. Classic train versus classic car. Old world sensibilities versus modern, self-driven convenience. And the car did win in 2014, but the narrowness of that victory would leave an overhanging sense of unfinished business. The 2014 season would go on to feature more aeronautic spectacle, culminating in the epic showdown between heavyweights of their respective circles. A 2012 Jaguar SKRS in a rain-soaked punch-up with an honest-to-goodness cargo plane. An altogether more civilised affair than the instigating Barney that saw twin Mustangs spiralling down a dusty hill, but nonetheless a breathtaking square go.
Inspired by the golden sunshine and coastal beauty of the Riviera, but probably unwilling to endure another European drenching, the next Horizon Festival would take place in southern Australia.
With its diverse mix of coastal urbanity, farmland and bush, Horizon Australia would set a new standard of shock and awe for the Motor Festival. In tying its showcase events to its social media followers, the Horizon organisers created a winning feedback loop of fan engagement and ever higher stakes. The road car would pit itself once again against the usual jets and helicopters, but see its now traditional bout against large bags of gas replaced by the intense visual feast of a dinky two-cylinder off-road buggy facing off against an enormous low-flying airship. A race featuring heart-stopping jumps and a stalking sky shark reminiscent of the opening shot of Star Wars. And with the road car taking a back seat, there was now a sense that this latest slap fight between land and sky constituted a more friendly banter between colleagues than genuine rivalry, with neither side having anything left to prove. Pacific Florida's keen watersporting traditions would inspire a new kind of race. The River Run showcase proved that there could be genuine competition between vehicles that operate on entirely different principles and infrastructure, by having a tricked-out Toyota Baja truck race in parallel against a load of powerboats. But once again, the most bitter of all competitions this year would be road versus rail. The Freight Expectations showcase, as well as being a good pun,
It's a freight train.
would summon the unassailable power of the diesel locomotive in an attempt to humble the motor car, specifically in this case the unapologetically American 2015 Chevrolet Camaro.
With the train grudge ever prominent, it's probably no surprise that the Horizon Festival would eventually make its way to the United Kingdom. A damp archipelago with horizontal rain and barely enough money in the treasury to fix potholes, but with a motoring heritage second only to its status as the birthplace of the railway.
Taking place in an inexplicably truncated Great Britain where Edinburgh is somehow the only major settlement and a 5-minute drive from the Cotswolds, 2018's Horizon Festival would once again feature a slew of showcase events. The Vulcan vs Vulcan heritage race featured a Vulcan bomber jet pulling apocalyptic turns against an Aston Martin Vulcan, both proud symbols of British engineering, and maritime excursions continued to form part of the proceedings now, with an iconic mud wrestle between a Toyota Baja truck and an honest-to-goodness hovercraft, providing a curious challenge to the bewheeled automobile, a boat that can go on roads, a land boat, an abomination, in other words, a race demonstrative of the fact that the ancient forest of Britain is as indifferent about the automobile as it is about the seasons. This land belongs to the Druids. There are no temples here for the cult of the car. This is the home turf of the train, and the most famous one of all would be chosen to represent rail in its ongoing grudge against road. The Flying Scotsman, 70 feet of furnace at the head of some of the most luxurious cabins in passenger transportation. It stands in sharp contrast to the aerial Nomad racing against it. A rocket-powered shopping trolley engineered to be as light as possible to attain roughly the same horses per tonne as a Ferrari F430. Again, this is a clash of ideologies, raw, singularly applied power versus overbearing decadence. The car wins, obviously, and crucially can further demonstrate its supremacy by heading through the nearest drive-thru for a McFlurry, which would incidentally be more in keeping with Britain's existing car culture than Horizon's distinctly American flavour of it. Big, bombastic, and brimming with sponsorship cash. In contrast, British car culture is mostly 9 dudes in a Mackey's car park revving a demuffled Renault Clio.
Having presumably written off the entire British experiment as a bad idea, along with most of the Commonwealth, the next Horizon Festival would make a gleeful return to sun-soaked coasts and food you can actually taste.
Mexico, a blistering coast-to-coast road trip of a festival with stunning beaches, vast stretches of roomy highways, and even a volcano. There couldn't have been a more deliberate contrast with Great Britain. With an enthusiast car culture rivaling the USA's, Horizon 2021 showcase events would become more involved than ever before with the inclusion of expeditions, making a grand spectacle out of not just motorsports, but of the very land hosting it. Mexico would provide a car versus train grudge match for its final showcase event, with a pallet-swapped Horizon 3 freight train returning to set the record straight against the heartbreakingly iconic Lamborghini Countach, possibly the most beautiful supercar ever designed. Guaranteed this thing spent the 80s pinned up on more bedroom walls than Farrah Fawcett. In Mexico's Copper Canyon, a breathtaking landscape of enormous economical and ecological importance to the country, and therefore the perfect stage for an absurdly wasteful contest between gas-guzzling apples and carbon-belching oranges. In a shocking narrative twist, the car wins again, and to do so with a Lamborghini Countach as its champion adds a grave insult to this particular defeat, given that it is an automobile whose natural advantages over rail are greatly diminished by the fact that it's too wide for drive-through and has the turning circle of a small moon. The next Horizon Festival is just around the corner, and it has once again chosen as its backdrop a rain-soaked island nation famous for its castles, its constitutional monarchy, its historically antagonistic relationship with all of its immediate neighbours, and an intricate culture of weaponised politeness. No, not Britain again, thank God, but a fresh start in what is widely considered to be the global capital of street racing, Tokyo, and the wider region of Kanto in Japan. Home to as many storied car brands as the UK, but with a much healthier automotive industry to actually support that heritage, Japan counts as the car's home turf as much as anywhere else possibly could. And yet, this is hostile ground, for it is also a country whose homegrown category of superfast railway serves as a piece of national branding, a landmark every bit as iconic as France's Eiffel Tower, Italy's Colosseum, or Britain's replacement bus services, the Shinkansen. Globally admired as the bullet train, this is 700 tons of pristine passenger transport hauled at speeds approaching 200 miles per hour. Smoothly tipped, polished, and gleaming like something from Ann Summers ramming itself through the countryside, this is the apex of locomotion. If municipal rail is Skynet, Shinkansen is its T1000. Terrifying, undefeatable, and surprisingly polite.
Thanks for your cooperation.
And also fully electric, which even in a world mid-pivot toward hybrid hypercars and poxy iPhones on wheels, feels like an existential challenge to the cult of the motorcar, backed with technological spite.
In an ever uncertain future for the role of personal transport, the Great White Serpent of Nippon is the final boss of trains.
With not a single power plant at the tip, but a distributed system of electric motors throughout the length of its 16 carriages, the bullet train evokes a sense of society to which the car does not belong. Thousands of moving parts, shifting people in unison, not directly to all of their exact destinations, not door to door, but broadly in a similar direction, benefiting everybody.
Shinkansen is the embodiment of the very concept of collectivism. That is why it must be crushed. I know exactly what people are going to be saying. Bro, how are you going to film a video about Forza leaning on that car? But I know it's not a Lancer, but it's still a Mitzi, alright? Best I can do. Keep it IGN and check out our recaps playlist for even more franchise lowdowns, such as our comprehensive Resident Evil catch-up. And if you want them to start giving me Lancer money, check out the Trinker Perspective. It's my playlist, it's really good. Right, that's it. Catch you later.
Cards on the table, right? I love Crimson Desert, and despite the mixed response it's getting from critics, check out our review in progress for the official IGN take. Make no mistake, there is a lot here to love. Like, a lot. Like, too much. Arguably. Which is why our review isn't finished yet, on top of a bunch of technical issues, difficulty spikes, and progress stalling bugs. Dafter than a sack of hammers and yet more Moorish than the Iberian Peninsula. Until now, the big question hanging over Crimson Desert was, but what's the USP? This enormous tapestry of open world tropes is all at once a love letter, a greatest hits compilation, and a Frankenstein's monster of that type of thing. A Dragon's Dogma broth with heaps of The Witcher 3, Assassin's Creed, Zelda, and even GTA 5 ladled in. Its myriad apparent inspirations are obvious to anyone with even a casual knowledge of the big games of the last 20 or so years. But even its most ardent detractors can't deny that Crimson Desert marches defiantly to the beat of its own drum. Though much of the pre-release coverage was preoccupied with all the things it cribs from other games in the genre, it didn't become clear until we properly got our hands on it that paradoxically, the end result is nothing quite like we've played before. Full disclosure, I'm about 60 hours in, I'm nowhere near finishing it, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. Underpinning Crimson Desert is a layer of friction that is quite jarring if you've come to it from the focus-grouped safe havens of Sony exclusives and Ubisoft open worlds, or even the CD Projekt Red stuff that retains its rough edges despite an infinite budget for polish. It's a game of many interactions, ways to manipulate the game world that are surprising in the freedom they grant and frustrating in how fiddly they are to get working at all. In short, it's insanely ambitious, but janky as hell. The type of audience that Crimson Desert is going to attract will be split on whether it's a flawed gem, a la Dragon's Dogma, or a janky disaster slog, a la Two Worlds. Or a secret third thing, both of those kicked into each other. And a lot of it will come down to the combat system, because it pulls from something that doesn't cross over all that much with the RPG world. Fighters, brawlers, games about walking left to right and battering people while listening to rad techno. You know, from back when this was a real country. Combo moves that require memory, patience, and impeccable timing to get the best out of, rather than a basic light and heavy attack augmented with special moves or magic that gets triggered via a radial menu or a special button. Crimson Desert is all about the visceral immediacy of simply knowing how to pull off the cool flips, rather than assigning them to a favourites bar. It is what sets it apart, and is equally what will mark it out as far too obtuse for its own good, especially once people start hitting the bosses that filter out players unable or unwilling to engage with the game on its own terms.
Show yourself, coward!
It doesn't help, of course, that the boss fights are the game's nadir. In trying to make an open system where players can organically build their own fighting style from the available moveset that should, in theory, work on any size of enemy as long as you bring enough soup, Pearl Abyss have ended up pushing out a rogues gallery of ad bastards who just aren't all that enjoyable to engage with. Hit sponges who can easily cancel your animations and one-shot you back to the title screen before you can reach for a thermos.
Thank you all.
What a nice surprise.
Yes, soup is one of the best healing foods in the game, relatively easy to collect the ingredients for, and coming in pretty high on the benefit-cost analysis, it too represents a system that is too broad for its own good. You very quickly learn that crafting low HP food items is basically useless, and a waste of meat. Low-level enemies will never take enough health off you to warrant the necking of an aperitif, while the big lads scarcely give you enough time to stand there scoffing a dozen 80 HP scraps of meat just to claw back enough health to survive their next uncancelable attack. There's so much stuff you can do that is utterly superfluous. A nest of systems that don't fit together all that well and frankly needed a lot more trimming during development. Like everything else about this game, it's a blend of cliches. Too many cooks trope, too mixed with the one about infinite monkeys smashing out Shakespeare. And though I'm certain Crimson Desert had a lot of features cut during its painfully long development cycle, it feels like a cautionary tale about what happens when a studio isn't willing to cut enough.
Paper beats rock. I win.
During their production, games shed features like molting cats. Cuts can happen for all sorts of reasons: budget, time, tech, or artistic. Being disciplined and discerning about what to bin and what to spend precious resources on is the essence of good direction, which can make the difference between a 6 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. I don't want to cast aspersions onto Crimson Desert showrunners. There are factors at play in all creative endeavours that no outsider is privy to. But it certainly feels like a game that could do with a lot of shearing, and that's where much of its issues stem from. Despite all the stuff it's cribbed from elsewhere, the game feels like it arrived here from an alternate dimension in which the modern action RPG had never been invented. A place where not just control schemes, but the very language of blockbuster games is yet to be homogenized through convention. A throwback not just to Red Dead 2 and all of its Red Dead-alikes, but to the turn of the century where big ticket games were still a wild west in terms of basic things like where is the action button and what does it do. And so that preview question of what exactly it brings to the table is answered very brilliantly and boldly. Crimson Desert's USP is that it is Crimson Desert. And it's gorgeous, let's not forget that. Pearl Abyss's tech is astounding at bringing this vast, hyper-real landscape to life in a way that feels like a genuine step forward from its contemporaries. Visual splendor crammed with micro-details, particle effects, and an almost piss-taking deployment of rich, sumptuous real-time lighting that makes playing with ray tracing turned off seem as compromised an experience as going to the National Gallery in a motorcycle helmet, which goes some way to explaining why we've barely seen it running on non-pro consoles. So Crimson Desert doesn't just make unruly demands of your patience, it also mocks your hardware budget. It's a massive gamble for a game whose reported development budget puts it well above the average Sony exclusive, which is precarious for a title that's about as far away from a sure thing as you can get. A spin-off of a popular MMO, sure, but in a completely different genre, one that the studio has no prior expertise in delivering, and its links to Black Desert Online have, if anything, been underplayed over the last few years. I would hazard a guess that the crossover between the kinds of people who leather every waking hour into MMOs and the kind of people who crave solitary single-player experiences is not that much. And it certainly makes business sense for Pearl Abyss to chase an audience that it doesn't have, rather than cannibalizing the one that it does. But it does mean that From the makers of Black Desert Online has limited power as a selling point in this case. It's absolutely fair to compare it to The Witcher 3, Red Dead, and all the other things that Crimson Desert is clearly desperate to call daddy, but the comparisons that come to my mind while actually playing it are things like Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days, Pentiment, and yes, Dragon's Dogma 2, games that are unapologetically unique and committed to pursuing an artistic ideal that much of the audience will instinctively bounce off of, because to do anything else would compromise its vision. In Crimson Desert's case, that vision is admittedly muddled, but clear enough to set itself apart. And you know what? I'm glad it exists in this form. Wobbly, undiscerning, and outrageously janky, but heartbreakingly gorgeous and so very generous. A game that is designed to be sipped over months, if not years, and is broad and wild enough that, at the very least, it'll never be boring. Check out our ongoing review for more on the nitty-gritty of Crimson Desert and why we're giving it that score. And as always, let us know what you think. Is Crimson Desert a disappointment, or exactly what you wanted or expected? And whatever you do, stick with IGN. For decades, Sony first-party studio Naughty Dog absolutely dominated the conversation when it came to AAA console gaming. The studio's talent for creating expressive, endearing, beloved characters and putting them in deadly jungles, gorgeously rendered at the absolute technical limits of whatever the hardware of the day could manage, has long been the envy of game developers everywhere and instrumental in the ongoing success and cultural significance of PlayStation as a platform. So what the hell were they last week? This most crucial of Naughty 3s, very possibly the penultimate one before the hype cycle starts in earnest for the next generation of consoles, we haven't heard a peep out of them, or seen any proof of life of their upcoming new IP, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. And so it seems increasingly and frankly alarmingly likely that one of Sony's biggest draws is going to end up sitting out current gen entirely, bar the concessional remakes and remasters that came out back when PS5 was essentially just a Fabergé PS4. This has, I think, contributed massively to the perception that the PS5 has no games, which patently isn't true. I mean, aside from the fact that gaming generally is enjoying one of its most bountiful release calendars since the gluttonous days of the Xbox 360 era, Sony's other first-party studios have massively stepped up to fill the big Uncharted-shaped hole in PS5's lineup. Insomniac alone will have delivered Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart, and Wolverine before we even get a concept render of the PS6. We'll have had 2 mainline God of Wars from Santa Monica Studio. Team Asobi has deftly established Astro Bot in the pantheon of great console mascots. There's so much great work being done. I could go on listing things, but after a long time where it felt as though the PS5 was spinning its wheels, to say nothing of the competition, Even the most hardened cynic can't deny that the 10th gen has now finally picked up some momentum. Well, they can, but not with any credibility. But there's no denying the fact that this is an era of many blunders, whichever platform or publisher you look at. One of the most significant of these is the industry's pervasive obsession with games as a service, a mad, decade-long scramble where everyone and their dog wanted to make the next Destiny, or seemed obligated to even if they didn't. Even Naughty Dog, a studio so keenly devoted to its signature craft of cinematic action adventures, got caught up in this folly.
Okay up there.
Sony wanted their own Destiny so bad that they even bought the Destiny studio for a ludicrous amount of money, and they're not making Destiny anymore. I don't know, I'm not a business guy, but not having Destiny is an outcome every other publisher arrived at without spending $3 billion. Over the years, but particularly from the start of this decade, Sony has doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on live service, culminating in a huge slate-wide pivot following the COVID boom, with the firm infamously reinvested billions of that macabre windfall into projects that have, just as infamously, fizzled out or flopped so dramatically they've become instant memes for publisher hubris.
Come on, let's go!
And this trend, this live service trend, is part of the reason why Naughty Dog just doesn't seem to have done anything for the past 5 years or so. The Last of Us Online, something that had been in the works for around 7 years when it suffered a surprise cancellation back in 2023, soaked up so many of Naughty Dog's resources that it gummed up their development pipelines. Basically what happened. In fairness, Last of Us Online isn't the silliest idea by half, though multiplayer isn't the first thing anyone associates Naughty Dog with. It's something the studio has done well at in the past. The old Uncharted games and the original Last of Us all had popular online modes that were generally well liked by anyone who tried them out. The Last of Us Online would have effectively been TLO2's multiplayer spun off and expanded into a full standalone release. It was revealed in 2019 that the project's ambition and scope had far exceeded that which could be reasonably expected of a bundled deathmatch mode. Reading between the lines, this rather suggests to me that feature creep was probably a massive factor in its long development cycle. But that doesn't mean it was doomed to fail. I mean, who knows what might have been? The stratospheric rise of Toulouse as a hot property following 2 blockbuster games and an acclaimed HBO show would surely have given it a curiosity advantage had it ever come out, and if it had the juice, people would have stuck around. We might well be having a much different conversation about Naughty Dog right now had they persevered with it. I'd be sitting here moaning about how Last of Us Online's success ruined Naughty Dog, because while I can appreciate the appeal of a good online game from an academic perspective, I personally feel that the least desirable feature in any video game is the presence of other people. And look, this is not baseless conjecture on my part. When the decision came to axe Last of Us Online in 2023, the reasons cited were concerns that the studio simply didn't have the resources to spend on launching and maintaining a live service game while also continuing to make the single-player action-adventure tentpoles it is known for, that the people there presumably wanted to continue making more than anything else. So that's a massive, well-documented part of the story here. Naughty Dog lost the best part of a decade on an all-consuming multiplayer project that never came out. Given how much the bottom has fallen out of the whole live service ecosystem in the years since, cancelling it is, at least, the second most prudent move they could have made after simply not pursuing the idea in the first place.
Something was missing in the game industry, and they wanted to leave their mark.
The other factor here is that over the years, Naughty Dog's top brass have been whittled down, constituting a huge brain drain. In 2023, former head of technology Christian Gerling left for Meta. He oversaw the firm's technology pipelines, the ones that made it such a powerhouse for showing off the capabilities of Sony's hardware. Evan Wells retired at around the same time. He'd been co-president of the firm through its most successful eras, and before that, one of its top game designers. Bruce Straley, co-director of Uncharted 2, 4, and The Last of Us, would almost certainly be Neil Druckmann's right-hand man on Intergalactic had he not left to start his own studio in 2017. And it would be remiss to talk about Naughty Dog shedding talent without mentioning Amy Hennig, creative director of the original Uncharted trilogy, who left under reportedly tense circumstances back in 2014, later citing burnout among other factors. But she was crucial to establishing the Naughty Dog house style that I would argue carried them right through to The Last of Us Part 2 and probably beyond. This leaves Neil Druckmann, the firm's most senior creative, as top guy at Naughty Dog. And given how much of his time was being spent over at HBO until very recently, I think it's fair to question whether he's been a bit of a bottleneck for decision making. This happens all the time at creative firms. It's well known, for example, that his counterpart over at Bethesda Studios, Todd Howard, signs everything off personally like a vault overseer, which probably contributes a lot to the painfully long development cycles that they're associated with. Never mind where's Naughty Dog, where's Elder Scrolls 6, Tom? You announced it like 3 financial crises ago. There are no easy answers as to why big companies make the decisions they do. No one single factor can account for Naughty Dog's absence at this year's advertisement bonanza. I mean, for all we know, Intergalactic might get Beyoncé dropped at the next State of Play and make me look like a proper turnip. Stranger things have happened. I mean, in terms of games industry surprises, not looking like a turnip, that's just a cross I have to bear. It's a great shame that a confluence of factors has conspired to bench Naughty Dog at a time where it should be dominating. Like that woman your dad keeps sending money to. To think we might never get to see what this studio running on all cylinders could accomplish with a project built for PS5 and PS5 Pro is yet another unforgivable sin of this industry's obsession with squandering its most talented teams on things they are not best positioned to make. From Naughty Dog to BioWare, from Bethesda to Bluepoint, it's seemingly never enough to be great or brilliant, or even completely unassailable at just one kind of thing. I've said this many times now, but it's a hill I'll die on. The fact that the PS5, this many years in, doesn't have its own Uncharted game is a scandal. That's like Sonic skipping the Sega Saturn. That's like paying Hulk Hogan to sit at home. Unconscionable things that did happen because someone somewhere along the line did some shit business. Sony could have put one of their mid-card studios on a Sully prequel and printed money. I don't know, put the Days Gone guys on a sepia-toned Uncharted with big moustaches and flared trousers. It'd be rubbish, but I'd buy it, because I'm a mark for games about guys who climb stuff while doing quips, and so are half the people watching this.
I'm getting too old for this bullshit. Oh, come on, now don't you start this again.
In answer to the question, where the hell is Naughty Dog? Well, that's easy, Santa Monica, California. And what they're doing there, undoubtedly, is cooking, getting ready to make a huge comeback potentially on the next PlayStation, building its expertise, its talent, and those crucial technical pipelines back up ready to assert itself as king of the blockbusters for the next phase of AAA. Games that actually shift consoles, imagine that. Whether this hit-making institution can get back onto its perch or surpass it remains to be seen.
So where do we go from here, huh?
I don't know.
I mean, let's face it, Intergalactic could turn out to be a load of uninspired shite. I mean, what's the big idea there? What if the 80s never ended? Yeah, that's an idea people have been doing since the 80s, Neil. If you enjoyed that edition of The Trinker Perspective, check out my playlist on IGN, which is called The Trinker Perspective. Like and subscribe, leave a lovely comment, and above all, remain calm. There, I did it. I did an entire video without once mentioning GTA 6. Having nearly injured myself running to the computer for what I thought was GTA 6 Trailer 3, I'm now compelled to take a magnifying glass of conjecture to all the intricate details of Rockstar's newly revealed cover art ahead of pre-orders opening on the 25th of June. And I know it seems absurd, you might accuse us of trying to spin content out of bugger all. And you'd be right, but there are some genuinely compelling little details in this artwork and the manner in which it was revealed that are worth looking into. Just like the cover art for almost every Grand Theft Auto since GTA 3, the upper left panel of GTA 6's cover art features a helicopter. This time, it's a Sea Sparrow, the amphibious helicopter that first appeared in the original Vice City and now frequents the skies of GTA Online. This particular model is equipped with a mounted minigun bolted onto the cockpit steps. It would usually be an odd thing for a utility helicopter to come armed with high RPM military hardware as standard, so it may well be that you can modify choppers with aftermarket add-ons just like you can in GTA Online. This throwback to Vice City, along with the general colour scheme of GTA 6's marketing and the reveal video's bespoke synthwave soundtrack, which appears to be an original piece commissioned by Rockstar, it's making a real statement about GTA 6's links to the series' past. And we know the game has a contemporary setting and goes out of its way to parody the world of social media, but there are undeniable nods to the 1980s setting of 2002's Vice City, which I think is actually closer to the 1980s than we are to it. Oh my god. This seeks to reassure us that GTA 6 does not reject its past, but revels in it, despite all the fears that a decade of staffing changes and the world seemingly slipping beyond parody may have made this Grand Theft Auto a little too different from its predecessors. In panel 2, we have our protagonists, Jason Duval and Lucia Caminos. As stated on the Rockstar website, Jason grew up around grifters and crooks. After a stint in the army trying to shake off his troubled teens, he found himself in the Keys doing what he knows best: working for local drug runners. His girlfriend and apparent partner in crime, if the trailers are anything to go by, is Lucia. The Rockstar website explains that fighting for her family landed her in the Leonida Penitentiary. Lucia's learned her lesson: only smart moves from here. She can be seen in this panel holding a pistol, short-barreled, vaguely similar to the SNS pistol Mark II, which doesn't necessarily seem like a smart move, but if Grand Theft Auto has taught us anything over the years, it's that true entrepreneurs don't practice responsible gun ownership. In panel 3, this daredevil is pulling a wheelie on a vibrant sports motorcycle. The bike itself appears to be a Principe Alvino V1, I don't know if I'm saying that right, a new model for GTA 6 that we first saw in a screenshot of Jason released in May 2025, but where Jason's ride was green, this guy's mounted on a mechanical stallion painted in synthwave-esque shades of pink and purple. There's that theme again. The bike is also adorned with logos, the sort of livery that makes you wonder what level of Forza rivaling customization will be available at the local Vice City customs shop. This bike also sits in the same panel that featured a motorbike on Vice City's cover, which back in 2002 was a big deal since it was the first GTA, the first 3D GTA, to feature motorcycles. And motorcycles being something you ride, perhaps this is a nod to the fact that this is the first GTA to feature protagonists that ride each other. No? Driving alongside the bike, lights flashing and sirens no doubt shrieking, is a vapid police cruiser. Yeah, it's really vapid, it loves Kasabian. This interceptor vehicle is one of the most common law enforcement cars on the streets of GTA 5's Los Santos. It's had a slight facelift since we last saw it, but it's the same Bobbymobile you love to hate. Bobbymobile. In panel 4, there's a character that we don't think we've seen before. Replicating the original Vice City cover, we have a mystery woman in a bikini enjoying a drink. Like the blonde woman seen on the cover of GTA 5, she may not actually play a part in the story, who knows? We'll have to wait to find out if she's a vital part of Jason and Lucia's social circle. What we can deduce though is that she's a fan of the Leonida version of the Miami Dolphins NFL team, the Vice City Manatees, as the turquoise colour of the jersey she's wearing is a very similar shade to its real life counterpart. Just to be clear, I don't know anything about NFL. The only thing I know the Miami Dolphins from is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and the less said about that film the better. She's also sporting a tattoo on her side that reads Vice Baby, suggesting that she was born and raised in the area, also suggesting she's got a terrible taste in rappers. She also sports a 305 tattoo on her wrist, which is the real world area code for Miami. The chain around her neck says,
"Welcome to How to Pronounce. Let's say it all together.
Siempre.
The chain around her neck says siempre, which is Spanish for always. This probably doesn't tell us anything, except that this person likes to adorn herself with the Latino equivalent of live, laugh, love. But we're committed to giving you the facts, so Elsewhere in the panel, we can see she's been sipping on what looks like a parody of the hard seltzer drink, White Claw. We can't see the full name of it, but the word thaw is prominent. It remains to be seen if this new fictional beverage is as bawdy as Sprunk. Sprunk. Behind her is the Atoll Bar and Grill, an establishment we've not seen before in any trailers or the original GTA Vice City. It may be nothing, just a low-key riff on Miami's many beachfront tiki bars, or this could be a prominent location in the game. Places like this are peppered throughout the series as quest-giving locations. This place doesn't have the cozy Italian charm of Marco's Bistro, but you're probably a lot less likely to get car bombed there, because people don't usually park right on the beach. On panel 5, there exists something we didn't ever expect to see adorn the cover of a Grand Theft Auto game, an alligator, complete with a giant toothy maw that you'd swear was smiling at the audience if it weren't for the simple biological fact that no, alligators cannot smile and do not even understand the concept of smiling. This chomping reptile is, of course, given pride of place on the cover to represent the Grass Rivers area of GTA 6's gargantuan new map. But we know their native wetlands are likely not the only place we'll encounter alligators. All the way back in trailer 1, we got a glimpse of CCTV-style footage showing such a reptile getting ejected from a convenience store in one of the game's many...
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Game of the Year Watch. This is our show where we start lining up potential Game of the Year candidates to see what we'll likely be voting on come awards season. I'm Damon Hatfield. Today I'm joined by Aliak and Nick Lamone, and I hope you guys are ready to talk about some real good video games.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
always.
Lots of good stuff. So no matter where you play, there have been a lot of great games released this year already, from Resident Evil to Pokemon to Forza to Crimson Desert to 007 to Mina the Hollower, just an embarrassment of riches for us gamers. I've polled Scoop Nation to see if there are any frontrunners for the fans. We'll reveal the results in a bit, but first, just so our producers know behind the scenes, all the copy has been updated and run down. The copy here is a little bit outdated, but we can jump into our first game here. I think a good place to start would be the best-selling game of the year and my personal pick for game of the year so far. That's Resident Evil Requiem.
So this is the Damie pick so far.
That's my personal pick,
Gotcha.
yeah. But I also think it's a likely frontrunner just in general,
100%.
and is the best-selling game of the year so far. So a good jumping-off point. Nick, we've talked about this game a lot on GameScoop.
Yeah, and for good reason. I think the game is outstanding. I think still to this day, the momentum of this game came out, what, March, Resident Evil?
Early March?
Early March, so early part of the year, and yet it still has the momentum that I think is going to carry it all the way through to December. It will have to deal with a giant Grand Theft Auto-sized monster in the room, but if there's one person who I think can actually handle it, it's maybe Leon S. Kennedy himself. I think Resident Evil Requiem is just a delightful love letter to all things Resident Evil, whether you're a longtime fan or a relatively new one. And honestly, it's just so fun to play. I played the game like 6 to 7 times in a row. I've 100%ed it. So like, I love it. The roguelike mode is really fun. Leon Must Die. However, I do have my qualms with it.
Okay.
You know, if I am getting nitpicky
in
this Game of the Year style discussion, the only thing I can think that is really going against Resident Evil Requiem is strong first half of the game all the way up through Grace's basement section where you get to the midpoint of the game and then we switch and we make a pretty drastic change in location, tone, and the pacing gets flip-flopped a little bit, and I think that's where the game gets significantly weaker. That said, the first half of the game is the strongest Resident Evil has ever been. I'm going to go outright and say it. The Grace, the trauma center, the medical ward, that is, I would argue, one of the finest Resident Evil environments ever. I look forward to years from now where we do an art of the level on just Grace's section in that medical ward. And then how it's kind of just sandwiched by delightful bite-sized Leon sections. It's so good. It's a little bit of action. It's a little bit of horror. Just comes together to make a great package.
But come on, Leon's whole section in bombed out Raccoon City, when he's climbing that falling over skyscraper and shooting out the glass to making the zombies fall. All of that is brilliant as well.
The set pieces are fantastic, and I think the Capcom did such a great job of giving you things to do in the open city section, but none of it felt particularly meaningful or meaty in a way that, like, juxtaposed with Grace's sections earlier on, they just felt more substantial to me, and like I was doing more Resident Evil things. This almost felt like a Devil May Cry game when I was in Raccoon City as Leon.
I can agree with that
section where that section where you reach Raccoon City. I expected more from that section.
Really?
I'm not sure what. I think the pacing kind of slowed down for me, and I kind of got used to the monsters in that moment. But I absolutely loved Resident Evil 9. I think that was the moment where I was like, what's going on here? But the rest of the game was, to me, amazing. You beat me. You said you beat it 7 to 9.
I think it's like 5 or 6 times, but whatever I needed to do to 100% it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I got 4. 4. And
4
a speed
times
run,
for you.
though.
I
mean, that's pretty good.
Did you get a speed run?
Wow.
I got the speed run.
I got the speed run. Okay. I loved Resident Evil 9. I think Capcom did something that they hadn't done before, and it was connecting the old Resident Evil and the new Resident Evil, and they made it work. It seamlessly. We got the horror, and honestly, the Grace scene that we got at the very beginning is one of the most terrifying
so good.
moments Resident Evil has ever been, and honestly, any other horror game. I can't remember a horror game that's gotten me like that. I just love that they combined the old and the new, and it feels like instead of choosing one of the two, this is the new direction. They're embracing both sides, first person and third person, and it's working.
Okay, so Resident Evil Requiem, hugely successful, best-selling game of the year so far. The 4th best-selling game of the year so far is Pokemon Pokopia. This is a game that I quite enjoyed, in spite of the fact that I'm not a Pokemon guy.
The tonal whiplash is amazing, and I love this is the thing that Game of the Year does, though.
Yeah.
It brings together disparate types of games and forces them to do bad gladiatorial combat. I love it.
Is this cozy town-building social simulator game with Pokemon a game of the year contender?
I mean, I think it's 100% a valid contender, especially for people who might be turned off by Resident Evil's either violence, gore, maybe it's just not your cup of tea. In the same way that those people may not be particularly interested in Pokopia, you know? I mean, one thing that I did not expect myself to be as kind of grabbed by Pokopia as much as it did, and it's mostly because the game game feels good to move around in a way that a lot of the kind of Minecraft style games don't particularly feel great. Like this is co-developed by the Dragon Quest Builders folks, and I think a lot of their DNA shows there. You know, I'm not a big fan of the tree punching survival horror not horror, but tree punching survival games where you're building up towns, just because there's usually never any sort of direction. And the thing that's beautiful about the Dragon Quest Builders games, and then that has in turn affected Pokopia, is objective-based gameplay where it's like, do this. Now do this. Now go ahead and do this, and do it however you want. And I really appreciate that sort of feedback loop. And it forces you to do things and consider things you hadn't before. Plus, it's great nostalgia bait because you're going back to Kanto region, original Pokemon, and you're seeing like a post-apocalyptic version of Pokemon Red and Blue, which is really delightful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Pokemon franchise is 30 years old now. Pokopia is the best reviewed game in the entire series history.
Yeah, as a Pokemon fan, I feel like I've been one of those people that have been waiting for a Pokemon game that just felt good, that looked good, that I was excited to play, and this was it. It took Minecraft inspired level building, and it also kind of took a little bit of Animal Crossing too. So 2 highly successful games that meshed together into Pokemon. I guess my question is, do you guys call that innovation or inspiration?
I mean, it's innovative in that Nintendo and Game Freak are like, what if we gave it to someone else? And I think that's an innovation that speaks for itself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if this game in particular has the legs it needs from a more hardcore audience. You know, the people who are playing your Crimson Deserts, your Resident Evils, and things like that. But I mean, there are outliers like yourself. So I think it has a shot.
Now, there are 2 games worth mentioning that got a 10 from IGN so far this year. That's Forza Horizon 6 and Mina the Hollower.
Correct.
Again, 2 very different games. Think of the diversity of games we've just mentioned so far. Forza Horizon 6. Forza Horizon 5 was our game of the year in 2021. Is 6 a contender?
Look, I love Japan. I love Japan, don't get me wrong.
Same.
I love the formula that Forza Horizon has kind of introduced and implemented, but I can't help but feel like I've already played this game. And that's the biggest dilemma I face. It's really fun, don't get me wrong. It's just I've done all of this before in the way that a lot of the things that we've been talking about feel fresh and exciting and new, whereas, you know, not to be like, you know, break it down to its like absolute simplest formula, but it is just kind of driving a car around in a way that's very arcadey and fun. And I think I'm at a point in my life now where I want more sim-based style challenging. You know, I want to learn that I'm oversteering and figure out how to fix that. This is just kind of something that I play to pass the time as opposed to a thing that I actively want to like make progress in.
Yeah, I mean the presentation is flawless. I can't knock it for that. It just it does have kind of a been there, done that feel.
Exactly.
And we also talk about friction. You enjoy a certain amount of friction in your games, but Forza Horizon 6 kind of goes out of its way to present a frictionless experience for the player. I don't know. I get a little bit tired of its like overwhelming like positivity and like it's always trying to boost me up and like you're awesome. Here's a free car.
You basically created cars. You're so good at this.
Yeah.
It's like okay, thank you, but also like give me a challenge.
Yeah.
Give me a challenge. Even like the giant mech race, right?
Yeah.
I thought that would be a lot more challenging than it actually was. In that you're on paper, it's a great idea. You are racing against a giant mech, and then it's like. Oh, it's all kind of like scripted and chill, and it's designed to lose. And I feel good about it because I win, but I didn't really feel like I earned it,
Alec, what'd you think?
Yeah, I'm always impressed by the visuals of this game, and I feel like it's one of those games that's just really, really fun to play. But again, I expect a little bit more from a game of the year. Like I want personally, this is very personal, I want a really good story that takes me to different worlds. And I think this is a really fun game. It's impressive what they've done with Forza, but we have seen it before. And we have other contenders that I feel like have impressed me more.
All right, we need to take a quick break, but when we return, we will discuss Mina the Hollower and your picks for Game of the Year 2026 so far.
IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by Amazon Luna. Here to play.
The average Cinefix movie list features nearly 100 different films and approximately 25 minutes worth of wall-to-wall deep dive analysis. To simulate that pace for this 30-second ad, we're featuring 26 different films, and before you say it, no, that math does not check out. We're not math people, we're movie people. We can't even count down from 10 without ending up at, like, 96. Subscribe to IGN Movies and TV for more Cinefix movie lists. Bad at math, great at movies.
Can't find that final collectible you're missing? IGN strategy guides and interactive maps are here to help.
One step at a time.
IGN guides are trusted by millions, easy to use, and best of all, free. IGN has the very best, most complete and accurate guides for Shadow of the Erdtree, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and so much more.
See? It's good, right?
Every guide is tested and verified for you by experts. Just search for IGN when you search for guides.
IGN Plus is where your adventure begins.
What are you selling?
Plus is the place to get unlimited access to all the tools you need to beat your games.
Here's what you need to know for bringing down Gloomspawn.
Plus, awesome exclusive discounts on IGN Store.
Maybe this would tease open your money pouch.
Plus, ad-free browsing on IGN.com. Plus, unlimited game help tools like premium interactive maps with your own custom map markers, filters, marker notes, and more.
This will come in handy.
Plus, access to sweepstakes, giveaways, and free game keys.
Wow! Exactly.
Want more? Head to IGN.com/plus and start your adventure today.
IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by our official retail partner, Best Buy.
Welcome back to Game of the Year Watch 2026. We've been discussing some of the highest rated games on IGN this year, but what are your games of the year so far? I put the call out and Scoop Nation answered. Now there is a clear front runner, which we'll get to in a bit, but perhaps more interesting is the tie for 5th place in my very scientific polling.
Please break it down. I'm dying to know.
For 5th place. So this would be Forza Horizon 6 and Crimson Desert.
Wow. I'm not surprised, but I guess maybe a little bit. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so we talked a bit about Forza Horizon 6. That got a 10 from IGN. Crimson Desert got a 6 from IGN.
Mm-hmm.
It's a polarizing game, but people have passionate feelings about it. And the people that love it, they really, 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 really love it. And I should say, there are lots of people on staff here at IGN that really, really love it.
Oh yeah, I know Justin Davis was obsessed with it for
Mark
a bit.
Medina loves it. Corrado loves it. Like, what was your experience with it?
I think this is. I do not love this game. However, I do think it's interesting, and it's a game that I frequently uninstall and reinstall on Steam every time there's an update, because I always think maybe now's the time that I'll love it. My thing is, we talked a little bit about me loving friction in my games, and I think that this game has plenty of it, but it's not handled particularly elegantly. Like, one of the things that this is constantly getting served to me, it's like designed for social media, and that there's so many bespoke little secrets that you would never know they're there unless some influencer or content creator told you about it. And it's just because the game doesn't communicate how any of these things are a possibility to you. And that, to me, that's its biggest problem. It's like, show me that there are these sorts of secrets innately and organically in the game. I shouldn't have to rely on content creators to show me that there's a really one-of-a-kind, unique pair of boots that let you run on water, let you jet ski through the water. It's like, that's really cool. I just wish the game told me that these types of things exist so that I can go and be on the lookout for them in a way that feels like I would actually be able to investigate and figure out these things are there, as opposed to the game just kind of arbitrarily being like, well, you didn't interact with every single clock in the town, so how would you not know that the thing is there? It's little things like that. I just don't think it doesn't kind of choreograph itself very well and tell you what are the possibilities, which I can appreciate, but not Game of the Year material. Game of the Year material should teach you as you play.
Aliak, what do you think?
I think this is the game that your friends get mad at you for not playing. And they're just insisting to, like, please just play Crimson Desert. Has happened already before. There's just something about the game that I think, like you said, is missing for me to be able to, like, consider it for that. I'm not surprised that it's here because of how many people absolutely love this game, but maybe it is filling a space that was needed to be filled before, and that's why people love it so much. To me, in terms of, like, uniqueness and branding, it just looks like another, open world MMO where you can just, run around and do cool things, but I don't know. It's missing something, a soul.
I mean, it's the only game that we've been discussing. It didn't receive universal acclaim.
Yeah.
Correct.
But the people that love it really love it, and I think that makes them, like, want to defend it.
Yeah.
So they're very loud champions of it.
I strongly suspect that the type of people, like, it's people who enjoy, lush, beautiful worlds, which I will not argue that.
Yeah.
Crimson Desert is one of the most stunning games I've ever seen. It looks expensive in a way. Like, I don't necessarily think it's beautiful in that its art direction is beautiful. I think it just looks like the money is on the screen, that the dev clearly put a lot of time and effort in it. And I think it's a very impressive, almost tech demo, but it's like, I don't know. I just have zero interest in actually engaging with any of its systems in a way that, like, I want to fall in love with it, but there's nothing in the game so far that has managed to, like, grab me and grip me in the way that, a lot of the other games. I would actually liken this a lot more to Forza Horizon 6 in that this just feels like something I'm playing to pass the time between big releases without really engaging with it meaningfully.
Well, then it's fitting that this is tied with Forza Horizon 6 for 5th place with the fans. Coming at number 4 is Pokemon Pokopia.
Wow.
Lots of fans there. And then number 3, finally, Nick, is Mina the Hollower.
My personal number 2 pick for Game of the Year. I think Mina the Hollower is just, I'm going to go outright and say it. I think it's the best 2D Zelda game that has ever existed. So
better than Link to the Past, better than Link's Awakening.
And then better than the Capcom produced 2D Zelda games, which are also better than Oracle of Ages, Seasons, and Minish Cap. Which are
and the DS games, Phantom Hourglass.
Okay, maybe not Between Two Worlds. Link Between Worlds is pretty damn good. But no, Mina the Hollower is just this delightful blend of. It feels a lot more like the Oracle of Ages and Seasons games to me, combined with Bloodborne, in that the way the game incentivizes you being aggressive. I really like that about it. I love that there's tons of secrets to find. I like that the game doesn't hold your hand. I like that it's challenging, and just everything about the game is just very clearly made by people who are at the top of their craft, and I would expect nothing less from the people who gave us Shovel Knight. And like Shovel Knight, I look forward to constantly replaying this game probably once a year for the rest of my life, the way I do Shovel Knight and Spectre Knight. It's so good. I do have one major problem with the game. The towers are not fun. The towers that you do in the game, after every dungeon, after every boss dungeon, you have to do this thing where you ascend a tower to activate it and then move on to the next one. Those are not fun no matter what you do. However, despite those not being fun, I still think the game is a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Number 3 with the fans. Number 2 is 007 First Light. This is a game I finished recently. I also loved this game. They took a bold risk by telling a prequel story, introducing a new Bond, and I think it's a great Bond. Aliak, did you play 007?
I did. I finished it, and I feel like I want to love it. I want to.
I feel like you and Nick are more in agreement, and I love it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I wanted to love this game so much. I've always wanted to play Hitman games, and I never got a chance to jump into them. So I thought this would be my first entry into the Hitman style genre of games. And I love James Bond, so I wanted to love this game. But there was something that wasn't just clicking for me. There were moments that were really fun, but it also didn't seem as polished as I wanted it to be. And parts of the story were strong. Some parts weren't as strong for me. It just wasn't hitting. I think I wanted a little bit more from this game. I wanted to see some more fun things from the Hitman games that I feel like a lot of people wanted to see. And I will say, though, positive, when I finished the game and you got a chance to actually see all the cool gear that you could now unlock with a Bond and see your cars and all that, the extra content, I thought it was really cool. I was like, maybe I should spend some more time in the game and just forget about the story and the gameplay I just played. Like, let's just unlock things. So I thought that was exciting, but I don't think it is enough for Game of the Year.
Agree, Nick?
I'm torn. I think that this game is prime Game of the Year material. You guys are going to say Nick is a broken record. He keeps saying the same thing. But I think the front half of this game is so much stronger than the back half. Going into the game, I was super hot when I first started playing it. I think its tutorial section all the way up through the chess, the first time you actually do James Bond stuff, right? The chess match set piece in I think it's Croatia or something like that. I forget where it is exactly, but that is what I imagine when I heard that IO Interactive was doing a Bond game. This was the perfect distillation of that. The first chunk was like, this is so sick. The way that the chess match ends where you're, falling out of the plane and skydiving and taking out dudes. It's so cinematic. It's so exactly what I wanted from the Hitman formula combined with the cinematic storytelling of Bond. However, as the game unfolds, it funnels you into a more linear path, and you start to do less of the things that made me fall in love with the game. You still do James Bond stuff, but you don't have the kind of improvisational nature that it feels like James Bond is so good at, other than, oh, I failed my stealth, now I have to go loud, and now I have license to kill, so I'm just going to shoot everyone in the head.
Yeah. It is a little bit Breath of the Wild because ammo is very scarce, and you're constantly having to, pick up different guns and improvise, right?
And whoever at IO Interactive came up with the throw your gun at somebody to close the distance, you deserve a raise. Get that person a raise, because that is one of the finest mechanics. I can't wait for other games to steal it. It's so good, and it's a great way of closing the gap in a way that I don't think I've ever really seen in a game before.
All right, we have to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the very clear frontrunner, probably very obvious frontrunner for Game of the Year so far. But before we move on, I want to thank our sponsor for Summer of Gaming, Evil Dead Burn, only in theaters July 10th. If you're new to the franchise or need a quick refresher before the movie hits theaters, then you're in luck, because IGN's very own Alan Knight is here to give a spoiler-free guide on what to expect.
Cheers to your perfect family.
Evil Dead Burn hits theaters July 10th, and if you don't know what you're walking into, consider this your warning. This video is sponsored by Warner Brothers.
William, my sweet boy, I would give anything for us to be together again.
After Alice unexpectedly loses her husband, she goes to stay with his family, her in-laws, at their home. Somewhere quiet, somewhere she thinks is safe. Somewhere that would normally be a place to recover after a great loss. But this is an Evil Dead film, so as one may imagine, what was supposed to be a family coming together becomes a family torn apart. In this case, literally. So, how do you survive that? That's what we're here to find out. First things first, let's talk about what we're actually dealing with, because a lot of people get this wrong. The Evil Dead are not zombies, they're not ghosts. They're not some virus you can quarantine or a monster you can see coming from a distance. They're far more sinister. What they do is they find the people closest to you and they take them. And then whatever is left walks around in that person's body, knowing everything that person knew about you. Your history, your fears, the specific thing that would break you. And it uses all of it. The physical stuff is bad and gruesome, don't get me wrong, but that's almost secondary to the psychological warfare. So, where does all this actually come from? The Evil Dead, Deadites, all of it traces back to one thing, the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, an ancient text that has been responsible for every single bad night in this franchise's history. Someone finds it, someone reads from it, and then everyone around them has a very serious problem. In Evil Dead Burn specifically, it's a little different. For the first time in the franchise, someone reads from the book on purpose, which, and I cannot stress this enough, is not a great idea. So to illustrate the point, I will read a passage straight from the Book of the Dead. Let's see. Here we go. Kunda Estrata Montose Kanda. I'll swallow your soul! Anyway, Deadites go through your grief, your guilt, your love like a filing cabinet, and they find the exact thing that would break you, and they go straight for it with joy. There's a humor to it, a real pleasure in what they do, and that's what makes them so hard to face. And they can do all that because they're wearing the faces of your loved ones. Let's take poor little Alice, for example. She's already grieving. She's already raw. She goes to her in-laws' home because that's where the people who loved her husband are. And that's where she thinks she can heal. And then they turn, one by one. And she's in their house, surrounded by people she once loved with nowhere to go. Family is supposed to be safe. In Evil Dead Burn, that very thing is weaponized. Deadites don't pick strangers. They pick the people you cannot walk away from because family is the root of all the evil they will ever need. So, how do you fight back? That's the question, isn't it? Everything we just covered, the grief, the obligation, the faces of the people you loved, all of it is working against you. So what do you actually do when something wearing your mother's face is coming at you? When it's your sister, when it's your father-in-law, your grandmother, someone you made a vow to, what do? The answer is simple, and it is brutal. You have to be willing to hurt the ones you love. You have to be willing to sacrifice. Because when it's kill or be killed, the only way to survive is to look at the face of someone you love and destroy it. The question isn't really how do you fight back? The question is that something you can do? There are ways to combat the Evil Dead. Dismemberment has historically been effective. Fire, the passages themselves, if read correctly, can close the door they opened. But none of that matters. If you can't get past facing your demons, Evil Dead Burn, only in theaters July 10th. Get your tickets now.
IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by Evil Dead Burn, only in theaters July 10th.
Do you want to be the very best like no one ever was? Streamline your journey to becoming a master trainer with Planet Pokemon. Choose your Pokemon, filtering by type, stats, or game availability. Then use the full team builder to assemble an unbeatable lineup. Plan out the optimal set of moves, items, and abilities. Plan your dream team today at planetpokemon.com.
Catch up on all your favorite shows with up-to-the-minute gaming and entertainment news with Geek Media Podcasts.
Welcome to a very special episode of IGN Game Scoop.
Game Scoop has you covered for all things gaming and the latest game releases. Tune into Podcast Beyond for the biggest PlayStation news.
Man, this is a cool looking trailer.
Everything Xbox on Podcasts Unlocked.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief.
Catch up with your Super Nintendos on Nintendo Voice Chat.
Let the kids love what we love.
And get all the latest console news and rumors with Next Gen Console Watch.
Now Xbox and Phil Spencer are even saying that a mid-gen refresh isn't even necessary.
The Cinefix Top 100 podcast picks a movie every week to celebrate and debate.
It's kind of every movie's grandpa.
Geek Media Podcasts, the best podcasts from around the world.
IGN Playlist is the best way to track your game collection. Now you can even import your entire Steam library to Playlist, making it easier than ever to review games, show off your collection of the world, and finally chip away at that massive backlog you keep meaning to get to. IGN Playlist, check it out.
Can't find that final collectible you're missing? IGN guides are trusted by millions, easy to use, and best of all, free. IGN has the very best, most complete and accurate guides for Shadow of the Erdtree, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and so much more.
It's good, right?
Every guide is tested and verified for you by experts. Just search for IGN when you search for guides.
IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by our official product partner, Lenovo Legion.
And we're back. It's Game of the Year Watch. We've been discussing a lot of great candidates. We've been sharing the top 5 picks so far from Scoop Nation. I said number 1 is a clear front runner, and also probably obvious, and yes, it is Resident Evil Requiem. 007 First Light was in second place, but Resident Evil received almost twice as many votes, so millions and millions of more votes than 007 First Light. That's my personal pick, a Game of the Year so far, Resident Evil. And Alec, I think it's also yours if we were going to vote today.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I played the game so much. I loved it. And you know what? I think it's time to get a horror game to get Game of the Year.
Or just Resident Evil. Resident Evil has never won Game of the Year from IGN before.
Really? Whoa.
Well, hold up. Let me walk that back. Maybe 4 back in 2005, whatever that was. Maybe that was it.
2 Remake did not either, huh?
No.
Interesting. No, yeah, I think Resident Evil's an outstanding one. What made you love it so much?
Oh man, I think it was the immersive storytelling from Grace. Also, the performance of the actor that for Grace was just so good. I loved being able to jump between a fully immersive horror game where I almost feel like I can't finish the level, and then having to take a break and jump into a beloved original character like Leon. I mean, we've been waiting to play as Leon for a long time, and getting to see him as an older character now, I don't know, there's just such a good mix of old and new, and it feels so good. And Resident Evil has been nominated already, I think 3 times in the last 5 years for Game of the Year, and it hasn't won. I think Alan Wake was the closest one to win, but then we had Baldur's Gate 3. So I hope this year would be the win. If I'm voting now, I'm voting Resident Evil Requiem. I love it. It has everything: survival horror, action horror, the cinematic storytelling, the villain. I love this game.
Leon, let's not forget Leon.
Leon's the best.
Just the coolest dude. I mean, like, the modern area of Resident Evil games, the new numbered entries, 7 and 8, are, they first-person games, and then they're bouncing back and forth between those and the remakes, which are third-person. And what a bold decision that seemingly unnecessary for 9 to be like, we're going to make half the game first-person and half the game third-person, but huge success.
It worked very well.
They pulled it off completely. But Nick, if you were voting today, I think you'd vote for a game we haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah, I got to be true to who I am. And it's the one thing that I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm constantly going back to it. Resident Evil is my number 3 pick for Game of the Year currently. Again, no GTA. We're still halfway through the year.
Okay, wait, and 2 is Mina?
2 is Mina, okay. But my number 1 pick for Game of the Year currently, as it stands in June 2026, is Bungie's Marathon. It's not a thing that I thought I would ever be in love with, but man, I cannot stop thinking about this game. And when I think this game is exactly what I want from a video game, especially something that's as tired at this point as an extraction shooter. It's a first-person shooter. It's an extraction shooter. I like my shooters, don't get me wrong, but an extraction shooter isn't really my type of thing. But everything about the game's art direction, its music, its style overall, it's showing me things I've never seen in video games in a way that's like exciting to me. You know, I opened up the backpack for the first time. The inventory is so alien and like foreign, and it just seems actively like, we don't want you to learn this. And I really like the game that puts the challenge up like that. I like the high skill ceiling for the game. I like how sweaty matches are, and I love that you are putting something on the line every time you load into a match. My favorite thing that, without trying to get all into what makes it so unique, the end game of Marathon's current end game is called Cryo Archive, and it's this level that you actually can't even play. They only activate servers on the weekend for it, and also you have to have a minimum value loadout valued at minimal of 5,000, which is a lot of higher tier gear. So you know that you are going through this labyrinthine type. You are actually boarding the marathon itself, and you are in this labyrinth with other teams with high value gear, and you're all trying to basically go through and solve various PvE style vault puzzles and deal with PvE enemies while also contending with other squads with high value gear. There's just a thrill that I haven't experienced in a game in ages with something like Marathon, and it's a high that I can't chase, that I haven't been able to chase until this game, and I worry that the player base isn't going to be there. And so that's why I'm doing my best to go to bat for it, because I think that this is a game that should be experienced. I love how Bungie's vision for this game has been uncompromising until, I would say, yesterday's when they unveiled their PvE mode, that dedicated Vault Breaker mode. That's going to be coming in later in July as part of the middle of the Season 2 update. So they have started to compromise a little bit in their vision just to hopefully bring some players in. And at this point, I'm like, do whatever you need to. Please keep this game alive. I've never been so invested in a game as a service before as I am with Marathon. But yeah, everything about this game, I love it.
Alec, you have played Marathon, right?
I have, yeah. I'm supposed to be one of the players that's supposed to be playing. I'm the exact person they want in this game. What I love about it is its unique identity. Mm-hmm. Like you said, this is a world that I absolutely want to learn more about. Extraction shooters are not a type of shooter that I am super experienced in, but I jumped into it as my first extraction shooter, and I got to play for a whole week, just trying to really love it. I got really excited once I was able to pick up the Halo BR in the game.
Yes, the volley rifle.
That was so exciting for me. Then once I lost it, I was like, oh my God, I gotta get through this. I gave it a couple of more runs, but I think I got distracted by other shooters. I've been playing a lot of Battlefield, and I think I want Marathon and Bungie to succeed so much. So I'm right there with you. I want to love this game, but I think I need more, and I'm not sure how to identify what that is for me. I love the world. I'm supposed to be playing this game, and maybe I should jump in. Nick, maybe I should go play with you and get another player in.
Join my squad. I do
Let's
think, just my quick pitch to Aliek.
Yeah.
This is Bungie. They still know their gameplay loop that they've mastered with Halo. The encounter, grenade, shoot, and melee, and then the encounter's over, rinse and repeat over and over. It's just this perfect formula of ultimate game feel, and there's nothing quite like it.
Well, it does seem like we're getting a short list of games that, if we're voting now, games that would be nominated: Resident Evil, 007 First Light, Mina the Hollower, Pocopia, maybe Forza 6. I think it's kind of like the short list that's emerging. Ryan McCaffrey pitched in. He's the host of IGN's podcast Unlocked. He would vote for 007 First Light right now. But there's one more game that just barely didn't make the top 5, which we can talk about for just a brief moment here. I think it was one vote away from tying with Forza and Crimson Desert, and that's Pragmata.
Pragmata's good.
Lots of love for Pragmata out there. In my opinion, it's a great game, the exact type of game that we used to get every other month back in the 360 days, but not quite good enough to be Game of the Year material. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that this game, its greatest benefit is 2 outstanding performances from our 2 leads, and also the game does not overstay its welcome. It's just as long as it needs to be, and it has additional challenge content for people who want to take on the challenges, because some of the end game stuff in Pragmata is probably some of the most fun I've had in games outside of Marathon, of just like, oh, this is like PS2 level challenge of like the game that you would rent on a random weekend, and you're just like, I just need one more challenge to beat the game. And it's like the game does a good job of distilling all that down, and it's just it's an experience you haven't quite had before of, using the controller in a way that feels novel and exciting with your face buttons navigating the hacking minigame while you're still moving around and aiming with the left analog stick and the trigger buttons. Like, it's such a inventive use of, rethinking the controller. And I guess that's what I'm looking for with something like Game of the Years. I want something I've never quite experienced before. And I do think that Pragmata has that in spades. Granted, I do think it kind of shows its hand pretty early, and it doesn't change all that much throughout the course of the game other than wanting to see what happens to our fine heroes here.
But again,
Capcom's crushing it.
2 games already this year.
They still got Onimusha coming out later this year.
They've already announced the next Resident Evil.
Plus DLC for Requiem. Yeah. We're spoiled, Damon. We're spoiled.
And Mega Man. We don't deserve Capcom. That is our show, but this is not the end. Game of the Year Watch has begun. We'll keep checking in for the rest of the year, and I don't know if you were aware, there are a lot of games still coming the rest of the year, including this indie game called GTA 6, and there's the whole Zelda of it all as well.
Oh, so yeah.
Please be excited for that. But first, it's time for a brand new month of gaming. Jump into the humble June Choice Bundle and score an amazing lineup of titles. Right now, you can grab Octopath Traveler 2, The Riftbreaker, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Indica, Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector, Construction Simulator, Hell Clock, and Overlooting. This month's charity is It Gets Better, a nonprofit organization with a mission to uplift, empower, and connect LGBTQ youth around the globe. Head to humblebundle.com through July 6th to start playing today. Thank you to Alyek. Thank you, Nick. My name is Damon. This is IGN's Game Scoop Game of the Year Watch, and we'll see you on the next one.
IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by Fanta. Special edition Fanta and Xbox 25 cans are available now only for a limited time.
IGN Store has everything you need to level up your life.
Red 6 standing by.
Refresh your wardrobe with official gear you won't find anywhere else. From Fallout, Expedition 33, Romeo's a Dead Man, and more. Treat yourself to the coolest collectibles like an adorable SKA plush, your very own Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade, and a fully functional Pip-Boy 3000. Or kick back and relax to your favorite video game soundtracks on vinyl. Whatever you need, IGN Store has you covered. Head to store.ign.com and start shopping today.
Can't find that final collectible you're missing? IGN strategy guides and interactive maps are here to help.
One step at a time.
IGN guides are trusted by millions, easy to use, and best of all, free. IGN has the very best, most complete and accurate guides for Shadow of the Erdtree, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Zombies, and so much more.
See? It's good, right?
Every guide is tested and verified for you by experts. Just search for IGN when you search for guides.
Do you want to be the very best like no one ever was? Streamline your journey to becoming a master trainer with Planet Pokemon. Choose your Pokemon, filtering by type, stats, or game availability. Then use the full team builder to assemble an unbeatable lineup. Plan out the optimal set of moves, items, and abilities. Play to your strengths by analyzing your team's resistances and offensive coverage. Or really maximize your Poke potential by digging into the stats by adjusting EVs and IVs. And save multiple team builds for different strategies in different games. Plan your dream team today at planetpokemon.com.